Hi again, this is David. Thank you very much once again for making it to this video. And thank you too for watching the first two videos. The first video was on getting unstuck by fixing your subconscious map of reality, and the second video was on the game of life. I also want to thank everyone who sent in their comments and questions about those first two videos. I mean, it's very, very exciting for me to see that this information is generating a lot of excitement everywhere, because that means that we're all growing much faster and achieving the transformations and changes that we desire in faster and more efficient ways, actually with even more joy and with more fun. So once again, thank you very much for your participation. Now, today we shall cover the 3 subconscious reprogramming secrets to finally getting unstuck in your life. These secrets are as follows. Secret number 1, the best way to get unstuck and succeed at anything is to dash. Secret number 2, the story that you tell yourself about your world and you was built from past conditioning based on the lies that we were all innocently told. It's part of our cultural heritage, part of the information that we inherit once we are born into this planet. Now, this story forms your predominant vibration, and this predominant vibration creates a matching reality from the quantum field. And the way to change that and get unstuck is dash. We're going to fill that in right now in this video. Secret number 3, you only need to clearly see, literally understand without a shadow of doubt that you are an unlimited, magnificent being, deliberately having a limited human experience, and then understand why you're doing that. And your limited ego self that is causing you all the pain will automatically step aside and dash. So those are the 3 secrets that we're going to cover very comprehensively in this particular video. So are you ready to get started? I know I am. I hope you are. Are you ready? Great. So let's get started. But the first thing that we need to do is a quick recap of the last 2 videos so that we're all on the same page here. Yeah, makes sense? So in the last video, we met and followed Melissa's story. We saw how Melissa is a most brilliant nurse, yet her personal world is frighteningly shaky at best, and sometimes, sadly, it is anxiously crumbling. We came to see that she struggles with some things, the same things that many of us struggle with. We realized that it's not her fault that this is happening to her. And we also saw that Melissa definitely tries to fix all this. And sometimes she even feels like she has been a student of personal growth forever. You know, she has tried just about everything. And everything she has tried, they've all helped a bit here and there. Of course, they've all helped, right? Yet nothing has completely propelled her forward once and for all into freedom. She seems to get stuck. Frustratingly, freedom seems to be elusive. Meanwhile, her friend Josh is in a similar bind. And all that they want to know now, all that they want is to get some answers. And then we came to realize that we have been given narratives, rules, and systems of belief, and systems of ways of doing things, you know, how we live on this planet. So we've been given all this, and they have been designed, many of them have been designed to deliberately corrupt our internal subconscious map of reality, the very map that we use to navigate and manifest our lives. We also came to learn that the subconscious map of reality is just a fancy name for our self-view and our worldview. The self-view and the worldview are the bedrock, the foundations, the ground upon which all subconscious beliefs are built upon. The self-view deals with what you believe you are, and the worldview deals with what you believe the world is. We also saw that there are 3 core lies that are corrupting our subconscious foundations, corrupting our subconscious map of reality. These seemingly simple 3 core lies control and enslave the planet's population. They make all other lies possible, and they keep us stuck. And we saw that we are all born into a cultural story, a narrative that says, this is who you are, and this is how the world works. And we will drum it into you until you lose your childhood curiosity and questioning, and you toe the line. And those three core lies are programmed and conditioned into us. And so our minds become insidiously enslaved generation after generation. Like a fish born into water, we don't even realize that we've been born into a matrix of lies that keeps us small and disempowered, in fear and controllable. And we saw that believing the lies is the reason why we stay stuck, and that once we drop the lies, the problems drop automatically. What we need is to perform a reset on our map of reality, on our self-view and worldview, on what we believe we are and what we believe the world is. And upon such a reset, we would discover the greatest secret that has been kept from us, and that this secret is a secret of our own divinity and the secret of the world's quantum multi-dimensional nature. And then, in the second video, we took a look at our new internal, our new subconscious map of reality. The game of life, the game that spirit plays. We saw that the game of life has 5 steps. And it also has 5 game parts. And to create our new subconscious map of reality, one that works for us instead of against us, we look at each of these 5 game parts, and then we see how they function in ultimate reality, in depth, beyond what we've been told, beyond our conditioning and programming. And from this simple looking at the game parts, we get to change our subconscious map of reality automatically. And then we get to reprogram ourselves for whatever success we wish to achieve in any area of our lives. And then we got to realize that the game of life is like a dream, whereby you are a being within the dream, and you are also the dreamer of that dream. Great, so that concludes a quick recap of the first 2 videos. If you hadn't watched them, please watch them in full so that you can get the full juice. And by the way, you can watch them by clicking on the video icons that you see above this video in the navigation bar at the top. And if you indeed had watched those first 2 videos, then I hope this refresher has brought you up to speed on what we are doing here together. Now, also as a quick refresher, my name is David Cameron Gikandi. I was the creative consultant on the hit movie The Secret, and I am the author of the best-selling book A Happy Pocket Full of Money, which has readers from over 172 countries around the world. I was born and raised in Kenya, a third world country, during the tough 24-year reign of a dictator president. And growing up in that atmosphere of oppression and scarcity really did a nasty little job on my subconscious conditioning. Nevertheless, I managed to, in quotes, escape the limiting conditioning and programming, the restrictions. I managed to reprogram myself and free myself and go on to travel to over 30 countries around the world. And so I'd like to emphasize once again that I'm just I'm just like you, a normal person with challenges. I'm not some kind of a special person. And this means that what I'm sharing with you in these videos will definitely work for you too. Okay, now let's get started on the 3 secrets. Are you ready? Great, so we start with secret number 1. The best way to get unstuck and succeed at anything is to change the quantum field that literally structures the objects and events in your life. By changing, and you do that by changing your all-day, everyday vibrational state of being. Now that's a whole bunch of words that might sound confusing at first. Right? Yet, they will make total sense in the next few minutes. We are about to get scientific in a way that you will see exactly how the objects and events that surround you come to be there. You know, the people, the experiences, the jobs, the conditions, the events, the dramas that surround you in your life. We're gonna discover how all those things come to be around you and how some of them actually stick on you, And then once you know this secret, the whole world will make sense. Let me explain. You see, most people who have tried everything and are still stuck think that the best way to succeed at getting unstuck is to work incredibly hard, to struggle, and to fight themselves until, hopefully, they make it. The old map tells us that the way to fix problems is to work harder, to fight ourselves, to struggle, to push until, hopefully, maybe things work out. And that's what the old map tells us. It's a very mechanical map, the old map is. Now, the new map says that the best way to succeed at getting unstuck is to change your all day, everyday vibrational state of being, because this is what automatically changes the quantum field that literally structures you and the objects and events in your life. As long as your predominant vibrational state remains the same, your life will remain the same, no matter what else you try. Working incredibly hard, struggling and fighting yourself won't help if your predominant vibrational state is unchanged, if it is left the same as it always was last year, last week, last month, 10 years ago. If it's the same, everything stays the same. Now, as proof of this, how many of us know people who work like dogs? Literally work like dogs, or like, I don't know, something that works very hard, like 18 hours a day or 14, just killing themselves basically. And maybe they even fight themselves like they're their own worst enemy. And they still remain stuck. How many of us know people like that? Do you know anyone like that? I do. And the truth is, I even used to be that guy. So, changing your all-day, everyday vibrational state of being. What do I mean by that? Well, let me first assure you that I struggled with myself for years to escape the third world lifestyle. I worked like a dog, and all I got for my efforts was the same crap, different flies kind of thing happening to me. Until I changed my vibration. And what I learned from that life experience was that a vibrational state simply creates more of the same. For example, wanting creates more wanting. Struggle creates more struggle. Desperation creates more desperation. Scarcity creates more scarcity. Violence creates more violence. Hate creates more hate. Love creates more love. Peace creates more peace. Abundance creates more abundance. Vibrational states simply create more of the same. And so to shift, to transform, you must first transform your predominant vibrational state of being. And so now we can summarize what we have covered so far. The lie that creates struggle and being stuck says that we must struggle to have what we desire so that we can then do what we want to do, and that will allow us to be what we wish to be. For example, we must struggle to get more money so we can then literally buy the new lifestyle that we desire to buy, or to have, or buy the solutions to our problems. And then that will allow us to then be who we wish we could be. In other words, the old map of reality tells us we must have so that we can do, so that we can be. Have, do, be is the old map that causes suffering and staying stuck. Now, let's talk about the map that works based on the way life works. Be, do, have. The B in that equation stands for state of being, which is the same as saying vibrational state. So when you shift your state of being, it automatically shifts your vibration, and that automatically shifts your life and presents new choices of what you can do and have automatically. Why does this work? It works because our daily lives are composed of objects and events. Wouldn't you agree that throughout your day, your life is surrounded by objects and events? Objects such as people, things, trees, cars, the people and the environment that you experience around you. Now, all objects and events are made of atoms. Wouldn't you agree? I mean, this is kindergarten science. Everybody knows that life, or our physical universe, all of it, from the smallest to the biggest, is all made of a collection of atoms. This computer that you may be watching this video on is a bunch of atoms. The sound of my voice is a bunch of atoms. The sound is compressed air, and air is made of oxygen atoms, carbon dioxide atoms, and so on. A planet is a whole big collection of atoms. A person is a collection of atoms. Even light, the light that your eyes pick up, is a collection of subatomic particles, called photons. Agreed? So there is no exception. Everything, all objects and events are made of atoms. Okay? Colonies, collections, massive collections of atoms. All right? Agreed? Good. Now, all atoms, all of them, are made of subatomic particles, such as protons, neutrons, electrons, photons, and many more. And these subatomic particles are energy, quantum energy. They're not made of energy, they are energy. An electron is a unit of energy, a proton is a unit of energy, and so on. So everything is made of quantum energy. Now, I'll be the first to admit that the world of quantum energy is a strange, weird world that is quite counterintuitive and sometimes tricky to understand. But it is real science, real proven science, 100 years old science. So don't worry if some of this comes off as tricky to understand initially. That happens to everyone. I assure you, however, that soon you're going to get all this, and it's going to be simple for you. Even if you hate science and physics, we will really simplify it for you, and you will actually enjoy this journey. Okay? Great. So let's move on. Now, energy is 99.999999% space. You and everything around you is 99.99999% space, and only 0.0000001% is, in quotes, solid. Okay? That's how energy is, scientifically speaking. Energy is mostly space, which means that physical reality is mostly space. Now, you can Google this up if you don't believe me. You're going to find tons of scientific papers on this. Anyways, although the world feels solid to human senses, it is anything but solid. In fact, it is so fluid beyond our imagination. The sensation of being solid is just a trick played on our perception. It was designed that way for the game of life to work. Now, the 0.00001% solid matter is an ever-changing force field of charged particles of light and waves of matter, which, to your senses, appear as solid stuff. What I'm trying to make clear here is that an atom, any atom, doesn't matter what atom you pick, any atom, is not a solid thing that just sits there waiting to be touched. Not at all. An atom is almost 99.9999% space. And the parts of it that appear solid are simply oscillating fields. And it is the coming together of these fields, the push and pull forces created by these fields, that makes the world seem solid to you. It's like, remember when we were kids and we used to play with magnets? Yeah? When you brought two magnets together and you try to push the north pole of one magnet to touch the north pole of the other magnet, and then the magnets refuse to touch, they were repelling each other. Those kinds of forces are what you experience as solid. Yeah? No matter how painful a slap across your face feels like, there was nothing solid there. It is a force meeting another force field, in a sense. I'm simplifying it here. So, solid isn't actually solid. And this is the first key in realizing that getting unstuck is incredibly easy and instant once you change your vibration. Are you getting some of this so far? Now, I understand that there may be a lot of questions, just like I had a lot of questions when I first discovered this information. But just hang in there, and as long as you get a little bit of it, as long as you're getting some of it, the rest will clear up as we go on. So don't worry about that. But are you starting to see how things could be very different from what you were told they were? Are you getting this? I mean, does some of this make sense to you so far? Yeah? In fact, did you know that because of the fact that an atom is almost entirely made of space, because of that fact, and that is, by the way, a scientific fact, if you were to remove the empty space from the atoms of all the people on Earth, then the entire human race, all those 7 billion people, could fit into the volume of one sugar cube. I mean, that is how much space is in physical things. Physical reality is a hologram of ever-changing force fields. That is what so-called solid matter really is. It isn't really solid. Great. Next is a discovery that energy, the quantum energy, that, this quantum energy that is all atoms. And as we found out, all physical reality is all atoms in, collections of atoms. So it's all quantum energy. Anyways, this quantum energy always responds to human intent. It responds to your thoughts and feelings, your vibration. Because you see, my friends, thoughts and feelings are electromagnetic structures that form your vibration. Literally, an idea, a thought, or an emotion is an electromagnetic structure. Thoughts are things. Well, there's more to that, of course, we're simplifying it here greatly. But generally speaking, thoughts, emotions are electromagnetic structures, literally, In fact, have you just play this game? I would like you to recall the last time you walked into a situation of conflict. For example, let's say you walked into a bunch of guys who are fighting or arguing, You walked into a room where these 2 or 3 or more people were in a heated argument, or they were fighting, or whatever it was, yeah? Do you remember that you could literally feel the tension in the air? You may even have tasted it, yeah? You could feel the vibe, and the vibe felt, hostile, yeah? Your energy system picked up on that environment, and you could feel the tension in the room as those people argued or fought. Now let me ask you this. Do you know why you felt those things? It's because the thoughts and emotions, the vibrations that were being discharged in that situation are real things, electromagnetic structures that were then interacting with your own energy field. You get how this works now? And that is what caused you to sense the vibe in the room, the vibration in the room, literally. Now, here is the punchline. So listen carefully. This energy flashes in and out of existence 50 billion times per second. And it reconstructs itself into what you see around you precisely because of your vibration. In other words, your world is a mirror of your consciousness, and that is its purpose. That is how the system is built. Your vibration literally determines your life experience, literally. And this game of life, this game space, was built using a quantum field that was designed to automatically recreate itself to match your vibration. Now, for those of us who are not scientists and can't be bothered to go dig into the 100 years of scientific papers written on quantum physics, there is a very cool program that aired on PBS a while back called The Fabric of the Cosmos. And before that, we had the documentary called What the Bleep Do We Know? And in those 2 shows, we saw that quantum energy is not a static thing that just sits there. Not at all. It is instead a godlike substance that doesn't obey the laws of space and time as we know them, doesn't obey Newtonian physics, in other words. And it can be at different places simultaneously, and it flashes in and out of nothingness billions of times a second, and much, much more. It's quite literally a miraculous substance, yet we measure it in physics today, in a branch of physics called quantum physics. And so the chair that you sit on seems to just stay there to your eyes. Your eyes tell you the chair has been there since yesterday, it was there the day before, and I'm going to find it there tomorrow. But if you looked at that same chair using an electron microscope, you would realize that the subatomic particles that comprise that chair are not static at all. And this is what gives you the chance for miraculous change, the quantum possibilities within all life. 50 billion chances for change per second. Isn't that incredible? And to think that this is a built-in property of nature is amazing, right? Okay, so maybe you still need more evidence before you may believe this. I understand that. And I assure you that we have tons of evidence for you, and I will show it to you later on. But if this turns out to be true, isn't it just awesome news? Yes? Great, right? You see, the real secret to realize here is that everything on this planet is frequency. Everything. When you look down and you see a rock, what you're looking at is a frequency. You're looking at a frequency. But your eyes convert that frequency to an electric current that travels down your optic nerve and into your brain, and then your brain then creates an image that it labels as a rock. But it is frequency all the same. And then you bend down and you touch the rock, and the frequency that is your hand interacting with the frequency that is the rock gives a sensation of solidity, of touch, but it is nevertheless two frequencies in interaction. You are frequency, and so is everything else. And so your world reconstructs itself to what you see around you precisely because of your vibration. You see, everything is frequency. So we're dealing with vibration. We're talking of harmony, of attraction. Are you seeing how the law of attraction works? It does have a scientific basis. Consciousness has physics. And as you're starting to appreciate, there's layers and layers and layers to reality. So on one level, your eyes tell you this is a rock. But at another level, that rock is vibrating with atoms and everything. At another level, that's a different thing altogether. At another level, you understand what I'm trying to say here? This is what makes everything that we are learning about possible. The very science of the construction of the reality that we live in. And so, the only way to get unstuck and succeed at anything is to change the quantum field that literally structures the objects and events in your life. And this happens automatically when you change your all-day, everyday vibrational state of being. And to change your vibration, you simply change your core belief systems, meaning that you change your subconscious map of reality, your idea of what you believe you are and what you believe the world is. This is what sets your predominant vibration, your concept of what you think you are and what you think the world is. This is what sets your all-day, everyday vibration. Changing your core belief system sounds easier said than done, and I will agree with you on that. It can be tough to change what you think you are, what you believe you are, and what you believe the world is. In fact, most of us find it tremendously difficult to even recognize our beliefs, let alone change them. Yeah? Some of us even find it next to impossible. And that is why we stay stuck. And I can assure you that I myself, again, being a normal person just like you, I also found it terribly difficult to change my belief system initially. And that was until I discovered the new information that made this easy and possible. And this is the information that we're talking about in these videos going forward. In fact, some beliefs are so ingrained in us that we actually identify with them. In other words, they form our identity, and we find it hard to separate from them, to get enough distance from them, so as to see that we are not the beliefs. We are so into them that we think we are what we believe. And this is called identification. We identify with a belief so much that we think it is a fact of life and not a belief. We believe it is a fact. Yeah? Yet the funny thing is, just about all facts of life are beliefs about life. I'm yet to find even one so-called fact of life that is not just a belief about life. Even gravity, as crazy as this sounds, is a perspective, meaning that from a different perspective, gravity is not what we think it is. But it is possible to change core belief systems. The difficulty is only in the method. If you use the right method, it is easy. If you don't use the right method, then it's difficult or next to impossible. Okay? So it's all in the method. The difficulty is in the method. Whether you can change a belief or not is actually easy. It's actually simple. It depends on the method. Now, I'll show you some very good methods later on. Okay? Great. So let's move on to the next secret. Secret number 2. The story that you tell yourself about what you are and what your world is was randomly built from past conditioning, based on the lies that we were innocently told while growing up. This story forms your predominant vibration, your subconscious map of reality, for that matter. And that is why you may still be stuck with re-experiencing your old story, like literally stuck repeating the past, basically. Yeah. Now, change the story you tell yourself about who you are or what you are and what the world is, and your vibration will automatically change. And when that happens, your world will automatically change. The big idea here is that your self-view and your worldview is absolutely the only reason that you're stuck in certain areas of your life. The only reason. Most people who've tried everything and are still stuck believe that their self-view and worldview has no effect on their personal reality. Many people believe that a gazillion other factors are the cause of their being stuck. You know, like their parents' fault, or the government's fault, or some idiot's fault, or just bad luck, and so on. But what if the story that you tell yourself about what you are and what your world is has full effect on your personal reality? What if that story is the only the only reason that stands between you and the things that seem so far out of your reach? What if that story is the only thing that really matters, the only thing that is blocking you? What if that's the case? Now, if that's the case, if that turns out to be true, and I'm not insisting it is true, I'm merely suggesting it to you for your consideration. If it turns out to be true that your vibration, your story that you tell yourself about what you are and what your world is the only thing that matters, then the logical conclusion is that it is the only thing that you need to work with or work on. Because, therefore, if you ignore it, then you stay stuck because your story stays the same and your vibration stays the same. Make sense? Now, remember, the stories that we tell ourselves were built from past conditioning, built from past programming, based on the lies that we were innocently told by people who in turn inherited the same lies, okay? And in turn, those they inherited it from also inherited the same. So it's passed down through generations. We accepted the self-view and worldview that was offered to us from childhood. And we had to accept it. We literally had to, because we wanted to stay safe, we wanted to be loved, we wanted to be accepted, we wanted to belong, we wanted to eat, you know, wanted to survive. And so we just took it in, right? But we never stopped to check to see how accurate that story was. And so the story is the problem. The story that we tell ourselves about what we are and what the world is. Now, what do I mean by that? We have just seen how all the events and objects in our lives are made of atoms, and atoms are energy, and this energy forms the events and objects in our lives at the rate of 50 billion times per second. Based on our consciousness, our state of being, this energy organizes itself in manners and ways that reflect this consciousness, our thoughts and beliefs, our emotions, also known as our predominant 24/7 vibration, our all-day, everyday vibration. Now, the next step then is to see that the story that we tell ourselves about ourselves and about our world is what is our vibration. In other words, our story is our belief system. Our belief system is literally a filter that creates our reality and filters out any other reality that doesn't agree with our belief system. Our belief system is the system of thoughts and thought forms that comprise what we tell ourselves is true about us and our world. And remember, beliefs are thought systems, and thoughts are electromagnetic structures that literally vibrate and attract similar thought forms, and these form the seeds by which larger, bigger, grander manifestations happen. These larger manifestations as objects and events in our lives happen because quantum energy literally always matches our belief system. It takes the thought forms contained by your beliefs or as your beliefs, and it takes those so-called electromagnetic seeds, let's call them that, okay? And through the law of attraction, which is to say the idea that like attracts like, it manifests corresponding outer realities, which means your life's events and objects literally match your belief system. And so it stands that to change your world, you need to change your story, which means change what you believe about yourself and the world, and align it with powerful truths that are going to enable you, instead of with weak lies that actually hinder you. Does that make sense? Are you getting this? Yeah? Okay, so On to secret number 3, which says that you only need to clearly see, literally see and understand without a shadow of doubt that you are an unlimited, magnificent, infinite and eternal divine being, deliberately having a human experience. And then you get to understand why you're doing that. Why are you doing this? Why are you coming from being an unlimited, magnificent, infinite and eternal divine being? Why are you coming from that position to have a deliberate human experience? Why is that happening? Once you get those two and you figure that out, then automatically your limited small ego self that is causing you all the pain and frustration, that will automatically step aside. And then your divine self will take over. And it's going to amaze you with the truth of who you really are, what you really are. And in that process, many, many things will happen. One of which is literally your problems will begin to vanish like the illusions that they are. Yeah. Remember, these problems were based on a very limited self-concept. Once that self-concept changed, they also disappeared with the old concept that also disappeared. You understand? So great. Okay, let's see what that means. The big secret here is that you are source energy itself. And by source energy, we mean that you are the exact same energy that is the universe itself, that created the entire universe. You are one with the Creator, literally a piece of the Maker. Now, in many religions and creation myths, this idea has been expressed in various ways. For example, in the Bible, in Genesis, it says, "Let us make man in our image and likeness." You are literally source energy, having a temporal human experience in the game of life. Source energy wearing a human vessel, a human vehicle, a human body. Your body is only a highly advanced avatar, a biological vessel. But it isn't who you are. It isn't who you really are. However, on the contrary, most people who have tried everything and are still stuck have been conditioned and raised to believe that they are only human, literally physical meat with a brain and perhaps with a little bit of spirit somewhere. They believe they are not source energy. They believe they are separate from the Creator, that they are anything but but the Creator. In fact, they actively deny that they are one with the Creator. They deny that it's even possible. They can't see it. You know, they can't see how they can be worthy to be one with that same source energy that creates the universe, you know, and beyond. And so, unfortunately, they adopt a very, very weak self-view and worldview that they operate from. Now, compare this weak belief system with the belief system of someone who sees themselves as one with the very creation that is the entire universe. Can you see the massive difference in power and manifestation between those two kinds of people, the victim and the creator? Can you see the difference in power and manifestation capabilities? So people who are stuck tend to believe that they are victims of life and not creator beings, and definitely not one with source energy. Now flip that position. What if you could somehow clearly see, literally see and understand without a shadow of doubt that you are an unlimited, magnificent, infinite and eternal divine being, deliberately having a human experience, and then understand why you're doing that? If you could do that, yeah? If you could do that, just take a moment here. Actually, let's slow down. Don't worry about how you can do all this. Simply imagine, what if you could somehow do that? What if you could see yourself as one with source energy? What if you could know yourself as source energy incarnate? Yeah? If you could do that, can you then see that your limited small ego self that you had identified with earlier, the same limited ego self that was causing you the pain and the being stuck and the problems, can you see how that would automatically step aside and then your divine self would take over? Can you see that? Don't worry about how. For now, just imagine what your life would be like if you could somehow do this. We'll get to the later on how. For now, I just need you guys to see the possibility, not how to get there. Just see the possibility. Remember, when your self-view changes, your life changes to match the new self-view, just like we saw earlier. And the same goes for your worldview. I'm sure you've noticed this happening in your own life in the past, whereby maybe you had something that used to give you problems in the past, but then today that thing doesn't give you problems anymore because somehow you changed, you transformed as a person, correct? Yes? Everybody has an example of something like this. It could be as simple as, learning how to drive a car. You are afraid, then you overcome your fear, you learn how to drive, and now it's no longer a problem. Or it could be something even bigger. It could be something as big as maybe you used to date or have relationships with certain kind of people that were abusive, and then you changed and you became different as a person, and all of a sudden you are no longer attracting these kind of people, and you're no longer being involved in those kind of relationships. Can you see that, how that happens? So we all have examples of how this actually works. So now all we're doing is upsizing it to divinity level. That's all we're doing here. We're not doing anything new. We're just upsizing. That's all we're doing here. Okay, so now imagine what a massively liberating life change is in store for you if you can manage to see yourself not as a small, limited, conditioned, only human ego self that you've been programmed to believe that you are, and instead to realize yourself as an infinite, eternal, divine being having a temporal human experience. For a start, if you saw and believed yourself in this way, a divine being having a temporal human experience, your day-to-day experiences would take on new meaning. Suddenly, you'd not see yourself as a victim of anything. Suddenly, the meaning that you gave to the objects and events in your life would change. Suddenly, what you attract to your life would change, and how you react to it would change. When your self-view changes, your life changes to match the new self-view. And when your worldview changes, your life changes to match the new worldview. In other words, when your story changes, your world changes. When your story changes, your world changes. Make sense to you guys? Yeah? But how do you do that? How do you change your self-view and worldview in this way? How? Well, the easiest way that I know of, that I've ever seen to quickly change your self-view and worldview in a powerful, lasting way, and all the way down to the subconscious level, is to study or look at the very construction of the game of life. In other words, your body, your psyche, your physical environment, reality itself, to look at it. How is it put together? How does it work? And to do so beyond what you've been led to believe, beyond your conditioning and programming. And that is a key word, beyond. And so simply by studying, you gain a new understanding. And this new understanding automatically overturns your limiting beliefs. Makes sense, right? I mean, look at your own life. Maybe today you drive a car, but at some time in the past you didn't know how to drive a car, and you may have been maybe even afraid of driving. But by going to driving school or somebody teaching you whatever, you got to understand driving, and you got to understand how a car works. And then suddenly your fears dropped, and then your life changed the minute you became a driver because of a new understanding. You see, the transformation came because of a new understanding. Study, understanding. Before becoming a driver, you were stuck waiting for people to give you a ride. But once you became a driver, your life changed. You got new independence and freedom. You changed, your life changed. You see? Now, that model also applies to what we're talking about here. It is as simple as opening up reality, literally opening it, like the way you'd open up a clock to see what the pieces are inside the clock that makes it tick, and then you simply look at it. You open life and then you just look at it. That's all. You understand how it works. That's all. In other words, you first have to reveal the subconscious. You first have to reveal the subconscious for you to then be able to reprogram it. The revealing, the study to understand, is what liberates you from the old limited problematic beliefs, and then the reprogramming is what then empowers you. Now, I don't want to trivialize this. I mean, yes, it is that simple, literally, but that doesn't mean it is easy. You see, the difficulty comes from the fact that your old self is a structure. It literally is. And this structure will try to defend itself and to maintain its existence. It doesn't want to just disappear. you know. And that's also partly why we stay stuck, because we face resistance. And so you will have to be aware of this resistance, and the way to overcome resistance is to get real, to get raw with yourself. In other words, this journey is going to require you to tell the truth to yourself, to be honest with yourselves. You can't bullshit yourself. You can't hide and pretend and mask. You have to be raw with yourself, raw with your emotions, raw with your thoughts. For in telling yourself the truth without escaping, and in this open and unconditional emotional flow without trying to block any particular emotions, this is where you will find your liberation and transformation. Does that sound fair enough to you guys? Feels right, yeah? Okay, great. So there we are. I believe by now you have seen the transformational and liberating power of this subconscious reprogramming and revealing method. Would you like to take things to the next level? Are you ready? Do you feel excited about knowing more, getting the full picture, and implementing this in your own life for you and for your loved ones? If your answer is yes, then the good news is that in the next video, you're going to get all the information that you need to get started on your new awesome journey. Therefore, you need to keep a keen eye open on your email inbox for an email inviting you to the next video. It should arrive in the next couple of days or so, signaling the opening of the doors. If you are ready to take your transformation to the next level, you will definitely want to catch that email, the doors open email. Now, I have to quickly mention one thing. We need to manage the class sizes so that they match up with our support resources and so on, so that all our enrolled students get treatment with the highest degrees of quality and attention for their highest success. What this means is that we consider total enrollments every 3 days. We have a look and see, can we manage the number that we have now? So we review this every 3 days, okay? And if necessary, we may shut down the doors for a while. That's what we do. We shut down the doors for a while, we digest the inflow, we adjust, we expand capacity, and then once we're ready, we reopen. Yeah, and that's another reason that you need to keep your eye open for the doors open invitation email, so that as soon as you see it, click on it. Yeah? Don't keep it for later. Just click on it right away as soon as it arrives, so that you're right on time. So after 3 days, once the doors open, they will shut again, or they may shut again. Okay, they can shut, and they shut for a while our internal housekeeping is done, and that's necessary. So we expand capacity, we make sure everything is running nice and smooth, okay? And then we reopen at a later date whenever we have expanded that capacity and everything is, smooth again, and we're able to take in more people, okay? So if you feel that this is something for you, just jump right in once you get that email. Don't waste time, okay? Please, just for your own sake, I just want to say this right now so it's not a rude shock later on. As soon as you see that email, pretty much we've got 3 days to keep the doors open, so just jump right in, okay? Also, once the doors open, we shall have a few super cool special goodies for the early birds, okay? So please do show up on time. As soon as you see the invitation email, as soon as you get that email, click on the link in it right away. Don't wait, okay? That is how you secure these extra special goodies for the early birds such as yourself. Now, I bet you're gonna love these goodies. You just wait and see. And finally, we have a clock. It should be somewhere above this video on your screen. That clock is typically counting down to the days until the next likely doors shut review, okay? It totally depends on what's going on. But basically, once that clock hits 0, we're going to shut down, review, and then depending on how fast we can mobilize our resources and expand our capacities or move things around, depending on what the students need, we're going to take a few days to reopen, and then that clock starts again. So keep an eye on that clock that's above you on this page. Whatever happens, you need to act before that clock hits 0, okay? Because once we close, we will reopen again. I just want to tell you the truth. It's not a permanent shutdown. We do reopen again. We just don't know how long it takes before we reopen, okay? So just keep an eye out for that. So remember, as soon as you see that doors open invitation email, whatever you decide to do, make your decision and act within 3 days of that email or before the clock hits 0 on your screen, the clock that you see on this page on the screen. So 2 things you need to watch out for: the clock and 3 days after that invitation email. Okay, great. So I hope you've enjoyed that once again, and I would very much love to hear your thoughts, comments, questions, and any other feedback on what you've seen so far. So please go ahead and type something out in the comment section below. That would be most appreciated. So, do take a couple of minutes. It's not going to take long, and just share your thoughts with us down below. All right. Thank you very much indeed. And as in the last video, I'd like to leave you with a sneak peek into the subconscious revealed and reprogrammed. So once again, what you're about to watch is an introduction, and it will run for about 6 minutes, just to give you a rough idea of what everything is all about. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this presentation. I hope you enjoy the introduction, and please remember to leave your comments below. That would be absolutely lovely and appreciated. So thanks again, and have a good day or good night, whatever time it is where you are, and I'll talk to you soon. Ciao. Bye-bye.
Welcome to the Subconscious Revealed, a brand new, fresh, and unprecedented exploration at the lives we live, where we peek into the engines that run the universe and humanity and master the game of life. In this series, we see how the universe is actually designed as a game that spirit plays. It is called the Polarity Integration Game, and it is played throughout the universe since the beginning of the universe. You and I are only the latest installment of this game. You see this game at play in your life at every moment. You just may not have thought of it in that way. Think about it. Your life is full of polarities, dualities such as love or hate, good or bad, positive or negative, yin or yang, male or female, rich or poor, fat or thin, on or off, hungry or satisfied, all those gazillion other wonderful contrasts that fill every corner of our lives at every single moment. Polarity integration goes by many names, such as unconditional love, forgiveness, and dropping judgment. This video series is the missing manual that you'll wish your parents gave to you many years ago to save you all the fear, scarcities, troubles, and confusion that may have occupied your life. The past 8,000 years of humanity's history were relatively calm, but today's world is full of unprecedented chaotic changes in our economic and social structures, coupled with massive technological and spiritual advances. This missing manual could not have come at a better time. And now, you have it, finally. Let's examine what you shall discover in this missing manual. The game pieces, artifacts, and objects. Unravel the hidden magical quantum energy that the subconscious uses to create your reality 50 billion times per second. When you change your subconscious, your life changes precisely because of this energy. The game rules of interaction. Go deeper than ever before into the world of beliefs and thoughts, consciousness and the ego, and finally begin to see through the magic trick that the subconscious plays on us. The game player's hardware. Solve the mystery of how our body's energy system, emotions, and chakras really work to create our reality from our subconscious. The game player's software. Discover the multi-dimensional divine portion of your DNA and see how your Akashic and karmic engines have always driven your life. Discover the hidden kingdom of miraculous subconscious powers that resides within you. The game player's team. See the larger structure of your subconscious, which is bigger than we thought. It includes human consciousness, the innate, the higher self, our guides, the soul, and Gaia, the planet herself. The game center. Our planet Earth gives us our life support, the game's initial boundary conditions, and the arena for social gameplay. Uncover the hidden systems that make Earth a conscious entity called Gaia. See the systems that your subconscious plugs into in Gaia and how that enables you to literally change the world and vice versa. The game's current level challenges. Take a rare insider's glimpse into exactly why there is so much fear and scarcity on Earth, and exactly what you can do to convert Earth into an abundant, peaceful, ascended planet. The game centers myths and bugs. Burst some limiting beliefs that prevent you from accessing the true, magnificent extent and power of your subconscious by gaining a new understanding of humanity's history on this planet in an expanded way that will expand your appreciation of yourself and free you from several major belief level limitations. The game space. Deepen your mastery of your subconscious by investigating the design and purpose of our planet, our galaxy, and our universe, and hence your own life purpose. Explore how the polarity integration game of life works, and start to make sense of the crazy chaos we see in our personal lives and on the planet. The game's next level participants. Your subconscious is actually a unique piece of a jigsaw puzzle that is the entire universe. Explore the possibility that your subconscious is infinite and may have a universal and galactic origin and history that affects you today. Explore the next stage of humanity as an active participant in the greater cosmos. The next stage is coming soon. Who shall we find there? The game players are also its makers. Recognize your subconscious as part of source energy. Understand why you are pieces of and extensions of the Creator, and investigate how creation works and what it has to do with the polarity integration game. Discover how it can be that on this side of the veil you are human, but on the other side of the veil you are a multi-dimensional soul. The game's goal is to gain enlightenment and ascension by successfully bringing polarities and dualities together and integrating them, transcending them, otherwise known as forgiveness and unconditional love of yourself and others, the healing of the illusion of separation. This fresh new perspective of our lives can bring us an unprecedented level of clarity, mastery, meaning, and purpose to our lives. It will help you get unstuck. It will help you to see through the magic tricks that the subconscious plays on you. As Pythagoras of ancient Greece once said, "Know thyself, and ye shall know the universe and the gods." You'll be amazed how quickly your life will unfold once you begin unraveling what is inside you. I guarantee that you will not walk out of this video series the same way you came in. But first, a quick disclaimer. What you are about to watch is not a new religion, cult, or faith. We do not claim it is the only truth. Instead, it is the result of years of painstaking research into the nature of reality. It is a framework that will help you find your own truths, higher truths, that vastly and immensely liberate and empower you, that will help you drop limiting conditioning and beliefs. Welcome to the Missing Polarity Integration Game Manual. Will we win the game and enjoy an ascended, abundant, and peaceful planet with awesome personal lives? Or will we lose the game, destroy our planet, and make our personal lives harder? It is up to you and I. The clock is ticking.